Good morning, y'all. Good morning. Good morning. Hope everybody is doing okay and starting their morning off all right. I am just getting home from a long night at work. It's been a while since I recorded a podcast episode, and I just felt right now would be a good time. One, just because I'm awake. It's a little after 6 in the morning. And just because of something that's been heavy on my heart. And I needed to hear it, and I hope it would be a blessing to anybody else. And just a few FYIs or just advisories. If anytime during this video, if you're watching or recording, if you later are listening to the podcast episode, if you suddenly hear a bunch of shaking or scratching or even that snoring over there, it's my pit bull, Chance, who I think goes out of his way to make as much noise as possible anytime I'm ever trying to record. So, yeah, that's Chance. But, so last week I was at work, and I'm working overnight. And I'm getting ready to climb a ladder to put some things away. And I grab hold to the sides of the ladder to get ready to take a first step. And I paused for a second, and I just began to cry, like a silent cry. Obviously, I didn't want anyone to be aware of me while I was at work, especially. And I think it's really just been like a piling up of things that are like beneath the surface, really, that are not necessarily always at the front of your thoughts from day to day, but during just this time that we've all been trying to live in and manage with COVID and, the distancing and, not being able to be, involved in our usual activities or whatever it is. Just feeling detached from a lot of things. I think they can begin to stack up emotionally on us, and we end up in a not okay place. And so I think I needed to hear what I believe the voice of God shared with me at that moment while I was having that emotional moment and crying. And it was simply that it's okay to not be okay. And everything is going to be okay. And for me, I don't know if it's, whether it's a man thing or whatever. I think that allowed me probably even to cry deeper or even harder in that moment. Just accepting that and kind of hearing it and repeating it to myself silently is, it's okay to not be okay, and everything is going to be okay. And to kind of undergird that. It shouldn't be, I don't want that to be misunderstood like saying it's okay to not be okay. That shouldn't be taken like a, a pass or, permission to be irresponsible with, anyone who has, mental health, um, issues from time to time, or someone who should be just paying attention to themselves more in seeking maybe help or talking to someone. So when I say it's okay to not be okay, that doesn't mean, to ignore basically any of those signs that might, come up or that you can see that when you're not okay. When I say it's okay to not be okay, that's really speaking to letting yourself be free from the guilt, I think, or even the additional stress, I believe, that comes from thinking the other thought, that it's not okay to not be okay. And I think when we tell ourselves that it's not okay to not be okay, or we just have that opinion, we have that sentiment, that adds to the stress, that adds to the emotional and mental burden that we carry, or that we're carrying from day to day already. So if you have a stacked schedule, you're in a midst of some back-to-back trial or tribulations, and then on top of all that weight and all that burden, you have this thought that it's not okay to not be okay. If you're stressed and you have this idea that it's not okay to sometimes just be stressed and feel like you have to tap out, if you convince yourself that's not ever okay to not be okay, that adds to the burden. That weight is 10 times heavier. Some of the reasons why I think I've struggled with feeling like previously like it wasn't okay for me to not be okay was because as a man, I felt like too many people depend on me, whether it's my children, my wife. So I don't get to take a knee. I can't afford to take a breath, or I can't afford to have a breakdown. I can't afford to be caught somewhere crying. I got to keep grinding. I got to keep hustling. Whether it's to pay bills, whether it's to provide and, going to work, or whether you're involved in ministry, you're doing this and that. You tell yourself that because of all those different dynamics, whether family dynamics, vocational dynamics, you convince yourself that it's not okay for you to not be okay. So when you get to a place where mentally or emotionally you're really not okay, either A, you lie to yourself, try to convince yourself that everything's good when that's not true. Or you get to a place where the burden or whatever the stress is 10 times worse because you're trying to like uphold this like facade or this ideal like there's something so egregious and horrible about not being okay. And I think it'll relieve a lot of you all who may also be in that moment or time, from time to time during this crazy year we've had where you're not okay, I dare you to just admit that to yourself for a moment, and allow yourself to have that moment. Just whether you gotta say it out loud or say it in your thoughts. I mean, really just sit quietly somewhere for a moment and just say, it's okay to not be okay. And everything's gonna be okay. Now, it's funny because I stopped and paused for a minute and thought about which one of those statements I should put first in the sentence. Do I want to lead with everything's going to be okay, but it's okay to not be okay? Or did I want to lead with it's okay to not be okay? And I think what I ended up coming up with is, as you guys saw already in the description, I think you need to lead with first validating the burden or the stress or the pain or struggle, whatever it is you're feeling. Validate that, recognize it first, accept it. It's okay to not be okay. And then after accepting it, after validating it, whether you're doing this for yourself or you're someone who works in the field of human service or mental health, and you're doing it talking to someone, validate the place, the mental, the emotional place first, and then follow up with the encouraging reminder that everything will be okay. But first knowing it's okay to not be okay. It's okay. It's okay. In this time of 2020, just being more up under one another in the home with your families, with my families. I mean, this is Free Lunch, the Free Lunch podcast, recording episode 6. Make sure you guys follow on all your streaming platforms. You can follow the previous episodes as well. But it's Free Lunch Podcast on Facebook, Instagram, at Free Lunch. That's FRII, lunch. And as such, almost all of the episodes are about me. That's what I have the specialty in, right? So I'll talk about me. And this time, and being indoors and more up under your family and around your family, I haven't had like what some others might have described as like a cabin fever thing, but I think what I've experienced is I've experienced feeling more of those moments where I might be trying to kind of like uphold that facade, to my family watching me day to day, that I'm okay, I'm good, I'm fine, because I see how the pandemic or, our lives changing and schedules changing. I see how it's impacting my loved ones and the other people in the home that I feel, I've been given charge over. So, I really want to press in and dig deep and put on my best self every day for them. So I think, that's been another thing that kind of exacerbated that, trying to uphold that, thing and not give myself permission as a man, give myself permission as a father, as a husband, to just have my moments. And I think as men, we have to give ourselves those permissions, man. It's, I know many of us guys, man, it comes from a good place. We mean well. when we're trying to be strong and, you know, save face mentally and emotionally for our loved ones. It comes from a good place. We mean well. We're trying to, we believe in doing that. We're helping our families, or, my wife, my children. They'll be better off. They'll be okay. They'll be better if they believe that I'm okay. Maybe I think we tell ourselves that, everybody will be fine, or we tell ourselves, you know what, if I'm not okay, and I show it, or tell my wife, or I tell my children this, now I'm gonna be a burden on them, right? Don't we do that? I think we do that a lot to at least to our loved ones, people we care about, right? And I think we do it, like I said, from a good place. It's because you care about them. So, you feel like you're doing them a favor. I'm doing them a favor by, pretending that I'm fine. I'm doing them a favor by not being honest with how I might really feel, mentally, emotionally. I'll just keep saying I'm okay, even if I'm not okay. And here's the irony, right? Is that the path to being okay, truly, right? Not just pretending to be. The path to being okay, I think, starts with, right, identifying or admitting when you're not okay. I mean, think of it like driving in a car, right? And suddenly getting a flat tire. And you keep driving, all the while pretending for everyone else inside the vehicle with you, pretending like you don't realize the car has a flat. I mean, literally, everyone in the car with you while you're driving can suddenly hear the pop, the blowout of the tire. Everyone can suddenly feel maybe the car shaking a little bit, and you're just behind the driver's seat, behind the steering wheel, looking at no one, doing your best not to turn and look at anyone, and literally keep your eyes on the road and pretend like la la la, like you don't have a flat tire. And eventually the car begins to slow down, right? Right? And if the goal is to keep pressing ahead and keep going forward, right? Lying or pretending to yourself that there's no flat tire is only going to lead in what? The vehicle coming to a complete, utter halt. And you and whoever else is in the vehicle with you will be stuck right there. So even if you behind that steering wheel was trying to save face for the sake of everyone else in the car, i.e., men who may time to time try to save face for the sake of everyone in the house, because we think they'll be better off if I pretend I'm all right, right? Get back in that car. Get back in that scenario, behind the wheel, flat tire, now on the side of the road. You're not helping anybody in that car get to their destination or go forward by you, driver, pretending there's no flat tire. And everyone else in the car, whether they're watching the obvious, signals, or, the car shaking and hearing the tire bust, and they know there's a flat, but you are determined to not admit something's not okay. But the moment you are ready to accept it, what can you do now? Now that you're on the side of the road and stopped momentarily, just temporary, right? You can now get out of the car, maybe get, your spare tire kit out, jack the car up change the tire, put the donut on there, and begin moving along again. Or, call AAA, whatever it is. After identifying and accepting that, right, you could begin to do and work towards the solution. We never give our minds a chance to begin meditating or pondering or even trying to figure out a solution because we haven't accepted the problem. We haven't accepted there's a problem. How will your brain ever begin to either think about a solution or even hear and receive a solution for a problem you have not come to grips with is currently existing? Right? We have to be okay with that. And I don't know what it is for you guys. I don't know whether it's, family history or, I don't know, poisonous environments in your home, wherever you live, that maybe impede that ability for you to come to those moments where you just admit, it's okay, man. It's okay for me to not be okay right now. I don't know what that is for each of you. I can only talk about I can only talk about me, right? For me, it's me just, I think, caring about so many of my loved ones, my children, my wife, and knowing everything in life that they're individually coping with too. I tell myself, hey, I don't want to add to, everything that's on you guys' plate, because I love you, right? Or it's more rare, but, for me, it's more rare. For some others, it might be the only reason, but for me, it's more rare for it to be, just stemming from an idea of trying to, just appear strong always or something like that, or ego-based or something. That's not really my issue many times. But it's really for me just, not wanting to kind of add to everything else much of my family is coping with, with this pandemic. Like even with my children, for those of you, parents out there, your kids, you love them to death, but it's even a lesson that's worth teaching them, that it's okay to not be okay, right? And especially if you're like me and you have, a little bit older kids, middle school or older, that can understand a little more. They're going through so much themselves right now. And even my wife and I, we're also youth leaders at our church, so we engage with many youth there. A lot of times, man, you have young people that you watch, your children at home as well, and they're literally copying the coping skills or lack thereof, more probably appropriately named the disguising skills that they're watching us, the parents, do. There was a time earlier in the year where when I had my moments of not being okay, and my daughter, who lives in Florida, my oldest, she would call, and I'd send the calls to voicemail. Why? Because daddy is not okay. And I don't want my daughter to know or find out that I'm not okay. And then, because if my daughter finds out, this is the whole, train of thought. This is the thought process happening to me. If my daughter finds out that I'm not okay, then it's going to make my daughter be not okay. And we do that. And many times we have no evidence of that thought. Meaning that's not ever like happened per se. Like we've never not been okay, told someone, and then suddenly we watch that person crumble down and fall apart, right? But I think if it's a person that we care about and we love, namely in this situation, your child, right? As the parent, you have like parent mode going on, right? Like all you're thinking about is how to protect my kid, provide for my kid, right? And granted, right, you don't want to burden your kid, and kids shouldn't be burdened with, adult issues, right? I'm not saying talk to your kids about adult problems or whatever things you're, in detail what you got going on. I'm saying being able to be honest with yourself and simply transparent with your children and all your loved ones included, so that they can begin to understand for even themselves it's okay to not be okay. Because at some point, they will get to a place where they're not okay. And then if all they've ever seen is us as parents show them this unfazed or always strong and put together person, now guess what happens to them? The point where they become older, or not even older yet, while they're still kids, or when they become older, and then when they become parents, and they have moments where they realize they're not okay, what do you think they're going to do? They're going to have this kind of cognitive dissonance thing occur in their mind, right? They're going to have this like mental catastrophe occur, and they're going to be like, hold on, I feel like I'm really not okay, but all I've ever seen is faces that seem okay, so I can't allow myself to show this, so I have to hide this. This is wrong. This is very wrong if I'm not okay, because growing up, all I've seen, my parents were okay all the time, and not being okay is not okay. That's what they're going to grow up with. And they're watching us, so I learned from that. And when my daughter would call now, or when she calls now, if I'm in a moment or a place where I'm not okay, I'll tell her that, not giving her any details or whatever, right? To unjustly, or unduly, burden her with adult matters or things, but I'll just be transparent and say, hey, babe, can I call you back? Daddy's not doing so good right now, or I'm having a bad day, or, and I think it just, I don't know, I think in some way, it allows them to, almost have permission to have their own individual moments when they occur, So that's been a blessing, and even in that respect with just my kids, I've had to learn in this season and being, more in the home and up under my wife and her working from home, me being home more. I've had to learn to not only give myself that permission, right, but also give it and let it be okay with my wife. I realized I wasn't doing that. I realized whenever my wife was hinting either verbally or non-verbally that she was not okay, I was jumping and really quick to jump into like solution mode and like try to be problem solver, and not letting my wife have her moment of not being okay. And again, me doing that came from a good place. I meant well. But for her, she even has to know it's okay to not be okay. And me being her husband, I have to let my wife have her moments where she's not okay. I let her have those moments where she's not okay. Without any judgment, without trying to jump and be in a rush to jump into solution mode and problem solver, right? There's nothing wrong with that, but just letting my wife have her moment of not being okay, letting her know it's okay, and being still there to support her and be right there to offer the encouragement she needs in the next moment. But really allowing that moment of not being okay to be fully experienced, to be fully realized, to be fully accepted. And that was important. That was a blessing for both of us during this season. So we're getting better at that. Praise God. Praise God. And I think that's, what's also been a blessing in this time is my wife and I have kind of been forced to work on the way we communicate with one another. We've had to improve that. It's taken much more work being up under each other and being in the home for more hours out of the day. But you have so many things that are pulling at you and trying to chip away at, just feeling good, finding joy and being happy in this season with everything happening in 2020, man, with this pandemic. Like for me, especially, like this is just a small thing, but someone out there, similar to me, you guys might get this, maybe some of you won't, but, I'm a person who likes to smile. And more specifically, I'm a person that likes to smile at strangers in public. And the reason why I like to do that is because I like that visibly it looks like you can improve or brighten someone's day by simply smiling at them. And what this pandemic has done for me in that respect is wearing a face covering, a face mask everywhere you go, having to have a face mask on in every store you go to. I feel like I don't get to smile at anyone anymore. And this pandemic just removing something so small like that from me is something that can chip away and has chipped away at my just day-to-day joy. Like something that I find joy in from day to day. And that's just smiling at someone or receiving a smile, right? Like, even look at that. Like, I get a certain degree of joy because I like smiling at complete strangers and brightening their day. But it's even a loss that I experience in reverse, right? It's like now I don't get to see the face of someone smiling back at me in public or the places that we go to day to day, whether that's the grocery store and it's the cashier, that's the regular worker there that you see every time you go to that grocery store, or it's your coworker who cracks you up and who smiles at you and greets you every day. Now when you go to work, they have a face mask on and you don't get to see that smile. You know, in some ways, I think like the smile is like how scientists say like the blue light, from the sun rays, somehow, we get our bodies get something from the rays of sun, to, keep our bodies in good shape or feeling good or something like that. But I feel like it's the same with something as small as a smile. You have literally millions of people all over the world now not getting those magic sun rays now, so to speak, right? You have millions of people not getting a chance to see the smile that they receive from these places day to day. Not being able to give a smile or show a smile to someone else either. It's little things like that, man, that in this year, 2020, has taken from us. But it's going to be okay. It's okay to not be okay, but it is going to be okay. Everything's going to be okay, guys. I think more now than ever, my faith has continued to grow and grow the most in finding the practical applications of my faith. What good is your Bible you're reading, or what good is your God you're serving if he can't show himself almighty, all powerful, all loving, all kind in times like this? What good is your God if you cannot find the fullness of peace, if you cannot find the fullness of joy, love in him in times like this? How good is your God? I know 2020 is putting many of your gods to the test. Many of your gods to the test. Even if your God is something like money, 2020 has put your God to the test. So, I hope you guys have been blessed in some way. I hope it was healing and restorative, rejuvenating, refreshing for someone to hear those words. It's okay to not be okay, and everything will be okay. And I hope to get back to more of these podcast episodes. And you guys be sure to tune in. Catch all the other ones here at the Free Lunch Podcast, at Free Lunch, everywhere, streaming everywhere. And maybe my dog Chance, the pit bull, will stop snoring now and making a ton of noise, waking the house up, because I'll be done recording. So God bless you guys. Y'all have a good day, all right?